On the evening of the 25th of April 2017, a 49-year-old Polish-born mother of two was reported missing by her husband after she allegedly stormed out of their family home in the UK city of Hull. As weeks continued to pass with no confirmed sightings or leads, what began as the search for a missing person was eventually investigated as a murder by Humberside Police. 2 arrests would be made the month following the disappearance, and over time a story would emerge involving affairs, illegal noxious substances, conspiracy to commit GBH, cults, spy cameras and secret voice recordings. The disappearance would go on to become one of the country's most puzzling in recent memory and is cited as one of the city's largest murder investigations in the past 20 years. Welcome to the Crime Portal. This is the case of Renata Antczak. Renata Antczak was born in the late 1960s in Konstantynowo Łódzkie, a small town in Poland with a population of around 20,000 people. The town is located just a few miles to the west of Lodz, one of the country's largest cities. After completing her compulsory education, Renata began studying law at the University of Lodz in 1986. It was during her time as a student at the university that Renata met Mr Mustafa, a Jordanian man that had been brought up in Iraq before choosing Poland to study dentistry. The two quickly struck up a romantic relationship, and by 1995 they were married. The couple bought a home in the village of Zabiczki, close to Renata's town of birth, and would go on to welcome their first child, Magda. Renata found work at the City Hall in Lodz alongside further education, while Majid began his career as a practicing dentist. In 2004, Poland became a member of the European Union, which prompted the couple to explore the idea of emigrating to the United Kingdom in search of better financial prospects. The following year, in 2005, they took the plunge and left Poland for the UK. They are reported to have briefly lived in both London and Scotland before settling on the port city of Hull, located in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and would soon go on to welcome their second daughter into the world, Victoria. Renata went on to further her education by studying English for law at the University of Hull in 2007, and would eventually find work as a paralegal advisor in the city. She was a well-liked member of the local Polish community in Hull and is described by many as a kind, caring person, as demonstrated by her voluntary work carried out for the Community Integration Network, a now defunct social enterprise which assisted the personal and professional development of ethnic minorities in the Hull area. Mr Mustafa found success as a dentist in the city with patient numbers in the thousands, and is reported to have been Hull's only Polish-speaking dentist for a number of years. After a decade since arriving in the UK, things seemed to be going well for the family. Then, in 2016, Renata decided it was time for a new chapter in her professional life. It was no secret to her family that Renata had always shown an interest in alternative, non-traditional medicinal practices. This is how Renata learned about a device called Timewaver Frequency and made the decision to become a qualified Timewaver therapist. The Timewaver Frequency system is a homeopathic microcurrent device that uses 2 electrodes which are held by the patient and are attached to a computer. The device is said to be able to analyze and treat a number of ailments and conditions. Although it should be noted all websites offering products and services associated with Timewaver are marked with a clear disclaimer stating the benefits of the associated technology are not backed by proven science. Renata is said by her husband to have used the Timewaver device to treat their youngest daughter during a bout of illness, for which she had been prescribed antibiotics. It would later be reported that Mr Mustafa was not in favour of this decision, and was out of the country at the time. Renata's training to become a qualified Timewaver therapist meant spending up to a week in her native Poland every month. In addition, Renata and Mr Mustafa took out a loan to cover the cost of the Timewaver machine. In late 2016, Renata began offering Timewaver sessions from a treatment room at a salon previously named Flexible Fashion, located in Hull city centre. In a promotional video released that same year, which is still available to watch online, Renata is interviewed about her experiences with the device, her training, the device's creators, and how sessions typically work. The following year, in 2017, Renata sought to make another significant change in her life. During a trip to Poland in January, she is said to have informed her mother that she wanted to end her marriage to Mr Mustafa. This became a reality in March of 2017 when Renata filed for divorce, informing her husband she intended to take their youngest daughter to Poland and enroll her in a school there. The couple remained living together at their family home in Hull along with their youngest daughter, with their eldest daughter now living in a different city while attending university. The 25th of April 2017 began like most other days during term time, as Renata drove her youngest daughter to Broadacre Primary School, less than a mile from the family home located in the Kingswood area of Hull. She made the journey in the family's black Mercedes C220 with the registration plate WF13PCX, arriving at around 8:45 am before returning home. Mr Mustafa was reportedly at home in bed due to illness when Renata returned. Following a discussion between the couple about their divorce, Renata is said to have left the house on foot at around 1 p.m, with nothing but the clothes she was wearing, and was never seen again. Mr Mustafa reported his wife missing later that night, and as the hours turned to days, there was still no sign of Renata. All attempts to make contact by Renata's friends and family both in the UK and Poland had been unsuccessful, with calls remaining unanswered and messages sent via Facebook remaining unread. Humberside Police made their first official appeal on Sunday the 30th of April, as concerns for Renata's well-being continued to increase. A few more days would pass with no sign of the missing mother of two, and on Wednesday, the 3rd of May, a close friend of Renata's in Hull, named Alexandra, would tell the media, "I have known Renata for 5 years and I cannot believe she has been missing for this long. She has a husband here and 2 daughters. One of them is only 9 or 10 years old and she would never leave her. We just don't know what has happened. She was wearing just a t-shirt at the time and didn't have much with her." 2 weeks after Renata was last seen, posters were put up throughout the city of Hull in both Polish and English as police looked to ramp up their search efforts. They revealed they wanted to speak to anybody who had contact with Renata between 8:30 am and 1 pm on April the 25th, 2017. Officers also appealed to anybody who saw Renata's black Mercedes to come forward. The same week, police revealed to the public they had confirmed Renata was last seen after dropping her youngest daughter at Broadacre Primary School on the morning of the 25th of April. Renata's disappearance also received increased media exposure after being featured on regional news programme Look North. There was an unconfirmed sighting of Renata in Poland on May the 12th, however, no further information would ever be reported. Despite being fully cooperative with police, suspicion predictably began to fall on Mr Mustafa, having been the last person to see Renata, coupled with the public knowledge of their impending divorce. The following week, Mr Mustafa spoke to a number of national newspapers in the UK offering his own theory into the disappearance of his wife. He claimed Renata had been exhibiting what he described as, quote, months of bizarre behaviour since December of the previous year. He went on to explain, "She started to wear different jewellery, especially a gold necklace which she said took the bad energy from her. She started to contact people we didn't know, and at home would light candles everywhere. After she'd gone, we found some of her writing. It talked about her being free from relationships, free from everything." The writing referenced by Mr Mustafa was given to police and confirmed to be in Renata's handwriting. The title of the writing pictured here has been referred to in the press as Freedom Ritual. With the help of kind users in the Polska subreddit, I was able to obtain a full English translation. Deliverance or liberation ritual. I deliver myself from all duties, oaths, seals, vows of poverty, submission, obedience, enslavement and complacence due to the traditions, mentality, Arab culture, enslavement and submission to any religion, from curses as in ones you cast rather than swearing, the magic of enslavement and submission, anything founded on fear and black magic, all energy related addictions and all the links or connections, together with deliverance from all that has enslaved and restricted me. I am grateful. Despite extensive research, I was unable to attribute this type of text or writing to any specific spiritualist organizations or teachings. However, similar writings and practices which often involve the lighting of candles for the purposes of spiritual cleansing is not uncommon. The necklace referred to by Mr Mustafa was also reportedly given to police, which poses the question, why was Renata not wearing it when she disappeared if it was something so significant to her? Mr Mustafa went on to express his concerns, quote, "I still love her very much, I miss her very much and I want her to come back. If she doesn't want to stay with me, that's her choice." He also offered his own theory regarding his wife's disappearance, believing she had been brainwashed by some kind of cult or sect during her frequent visits to Poland to train as a Timewaver therapist. He stated his belief was that Renata had been planning on disappearing for some time. To support this claim, he produced a photograph taken on the 8th of April 2017 which shows the couple at a celebration held for their youngest daughter's 11th birthday. The unassuming family photo shows the couple, their 2 daughters and the boyfriend of their eldest daughter smiling into the camera. However, their daughter was not due to celebrate her birthday for another 3 weeks. Mr Mustafa, quote, "Why have the party early? Maybe because she was planning to go. There are so many questions for which there are no answers. I think she's joined a sect. I don't know what it's called, but I think she had contact with them when she went to Poland." Police would comment publicly the same week that there was no evidence to corroborate Mr Mustafa's theory, also adding there was, quote, "no indication to suggest Renata's state of mind was anything other than normal at the time she disappeared." Renata's sister, Danuta, somewhat disputed these claims the same week, stating her sister was, quote, "uncharacteristically reserved" during their last chat. She stated it's possible she had found a new man in Poland. She was normally a bright and lively person. I asked her what the matter was, but she said she would tell me everything when she came back to Poland at the end of May. Danuta also spoke about Mr Mustafa, saying, "My sister's husband came here for a few days before Easter and went around the whole family asking why Renata wants a divorce. He said that she had started the proceedings. He seemed depressed about it. He was uncharacteristically pale and thin. He was a good husband and father. We didn't want the divorce to happen. He had a good job, a nice house and a car, and they had 2 children." The search for Renata took a dramatic turn on Friday the 19th of May, which began with Majid Mustafa being led away from his home in a police car, albeit not handcuffed. Their youngest daughter was also taken away. Forensic teams were seen at the family home removing items, and the black Mercedes which Renata was confirmed to have driven on the day of her disappearance was also seized by police. Just a couple of miles away, police were also seen at Mr Mustafa's place of work, Genesis Dental Care, located at North Point Shopping Centre. Number of evidence bags were removed from the surgery during a search which took place for several hours. It would be announced hours later that 2 arrests had been made in connection with Renata's disappearance. A police spokesperson told the media, "Today we have arrested 2 men aged 45 and 47 in connection with the disappearance of 49-year-old Renata Antczak on April 25th. The arrests follow new information about her disappearance coming to light as a part of the investigation into her whereabouts. In addition, we are searching a number of addresses in Hull as part of ongoing inquiries. At this time, no further details about the arrest will be made available for operational reasons." The Hull Daily Mail speculated following this announcement that police activity at an address in West Hull could be connected to the investigation. The property in question is located on Emerald Grove, roughly 8 miles from Renata's home. A resident, who wished to remain anonymous, told the newspaper police had been at the property since 11 a.m. Quote, "I think the family are Eastern European and I know they are friends with Renata and her family because people in the street have been saying it. I was reading the Hull Daily Mail story and the similarities of them taking the cars made me think it's one of them that has been arrested." A day later, on the 20th of May, it was reported the 47-year-old man arrested was Mr Mustafa. Another clue was also reported by the Daily Mail national newspaper. Police were investigating rumours that Renata had had an affair with a man named Przemek before she vanished. Renata's 84-year-old mother Stanislawa revealed she found a card bearing that name in the family's second home in Poland. She is quoted as stating, "Someone had been inside between my visits, I am sure, but only Renata and I have a key. I noticed a card, like a business card, lying on the desk in the office. It had the name Przemek on it. Renata never mentioned him, although she has spoken of seeking a divorce. When I went to the house to check again last Wednesday, the card had gone. The 2 chairs right behind the desk had also been moved. Then, on Thursday, the police called me at my home asking if Renata had ever spoken of a man named Przemek. They asked if I knew whether she'd had an affair with him." Police did not confirm the significance of this lead and it was never referred to again in later reporting. The 45-year-old man arrested in connection with Renata's disappearance was identified a further 24 hours later on the 21st of May as Mr Mustafa's friend Robert Lipinski, a Polish national living with his wife and 10-year-old daughter at Emerald Grove, the 3rd address searched in connection with Renata's disappearance a few days earlier. It was also reported that both men had been charged with conspiring to cause grievous bodily harm with intent and conspiracy to administer a noxious substance. Both men would appear at Hull Magistrates Court the following Monday. It was also reported by the Daily Mail that a man in his 50s, said to be a friend of Renata's, had been placed under police protection by Polish detectives at the recommendation of British officers. The man, who lived in the Polish city of Lodz, told the newspaper, "Renata is a cultured, intelligent, educated and beautiful woman with class. I have been friends with Renata for 2 years. I was contacted by both the UK police and the Polish police because they were concerned about my personal safety after the disappearance of Renata. I'm currently under police protection in Poland at the recommendation of the British authorities. Renata told me that bugging devices were used on her. She told me that one of our conversations had been listened to when she was speaking to me on the phone. On Monday, the 22nd of May 2017, Mr Mustafa and Robert Lipinski, along with his interpreter, appeared at Hull Magistrates Court. They were represented by the same solicitor. It was revealed that the pair had been charged following a conversation which had been recorded. Speaking to the two defendants during a 6-minute hearing, District Judge Fred Rutherford said, "The issue in the case is a tape recording. There has not been enough information provided to the defence to determine if identity is an issue, but it does not seem as if it is. The contents of the recorded conversation were not revealed, but it had resulted in both men being charged with conspiracy to administer a noxious substance to Miss Antczak, with Lipinski also accused of the same offence against his wife, Anna." District Judge Fred Rutherford added during the hearing, "The charges are ones that can only be dealt with at the Crown Court. There is no application for bail, and the reason for that is insufficient information." The identity of the man under police protection in Lodz was also revealed during the hearing as 55-year-old Darius Kleinert. Both Mr Mustafa and Mr Lipinski were also charged with conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm with intent to Mr Kleinert between March the 1st and May the 19th, 2017. Mr Kleinert told the Daily Mail, "I am deeply worried about Renata's safety. I am also concerned that my life is in danger, but I remain under armed police protection. I have been friends with Renata for 2 years. I was only an acquaintance of Renata, so I don't know why all this has happened. I met Dr Mustafa and his wife to see if some medical equipment could help their daughter. It responded very well to Renata and their children, but her husband couldn't be diagnosed for technical reasons." Despite the charges, Humberside Police said the case remained a missing persons investigation at this stage and had no evidence to indicate whether Renata was dead or alive. The family home Renata shared with her husband was searched again in the following days, with sniffer dogs seen entering the property. A police spokesperson also provided brief information relating to additional searches taking place. Quote, "Specially trained officers have searched open land and waterways in the vicinity of where she was last seen, which is routine as searches for missing people progress. Police also confirmed it was their belief Renata had not left the country, with the spokesperson adding, "As part of inquiries we have looked into the possibility she has left the UK, and to date no one called Renata Antczak has travelled from the UK to Poland or any other country. Therefore we believe she is still in this country. However, we continue to work closely with Polish authorities as part of the investigation." The following week, CCTV images showing Renata on the day of her disappearance were released to the public. The low-quality still shows Renata standing with her daughter at Broadacre Primary School and is reported to have been taken at 8:45 AM on the 25th of April, just a few hours before Renata went missing. Renata can be seen wearing dark trousers and a bright yellow coat. There would be no further reporting on the case for 2 weeks, until on June 16th when Humberside Police would hold a press conference with Detective Superintendent Grianne Casey announcing, "We are investigating the case as a potential murder. Our primary goal is still to find Renata alive and well, however, the investigation at this stage raises significant concerns that some harm may have come to her. The investigation is being conducted by detectives from the Major Crime Team and a senior investigating officer has been appointed." She said the force was, quote, "not in a position to share any more detail for operational reasons, but again appealed for information." On Monday the 19th of June 2017, Mr Mustafa appeared in the dock at Hull Crown Court for a short hearing. Mr Lipinski was due to appear alongside him, but was delayed en route from HMP Leeds. Judge Jeremy Richardson QC set a trial date for October the 9th. Mr Mustafa and Mr Lipinski were remanded in custody and there was no application for bail. A friend of Renata's who wished to remain nameless told newspapers in the following days, "While her family has spoken before about being part of a cult, none of her friends here or in Poland believe that is the case. There are no signs she is there. The police asked me if there is another way Renata could have returned to Poland other than by plane or ferry, and I said I didn't believe so. I would be delighted if I found out she was safe and well in Poland, but neither I nor anyone else in Hull's Polish community believe that is the case. I fear the worst and I believe something is very wrong." Mr Mustafa and Robert Lipinski's pre-trial review took place on Friday the 6th of October as both men appeared at Hull Crown Court. The pair were due to stand trial the following Monday. Instead, they were both given conditional bail after lead prosecutor Richard Wright, QC, said the Crown would not be proceeding with the charge of conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm to Darius Kleinert. Both men were required to surrender their passports and not apply for international travel documents. Their bail conditions also included daily reporting to named police stations and not contacting certain individuals. Both defendants still faced the charge of conspiracy to administer a noxious substance against their wives, and a new trial date was set for March 2018. At a hearing on the 14th of December 2017, there was another twist in the case, as Robert Lipinski had all charges against him dropped after the prosecution offered no evidence against him. He was released from the dock and allowed to walk free from court. Mr Mustafa was not so lucky and was still scheduled to stand trial in March of the following year. A few days later, on December the 18th, a reward of £10,000 was offered by Crime Stoppers for information leading to the conviction of the person or persons responsible for Renata's murder. Sadly, Crime Stoppers revealed on the 4th of January 2018 that no calls had been received. There were no confirmed sightings of Renata or significant updates in the case in the months leading up to Mr Mustafa's trial, which began on Monday the 5th of March 2018 at Grimsby Crown Court. The case was adjourned until Thursday the 8th following an afternoon of legal arguments. Due to reporting restrictions in place, it was not until the following month that more information was released. The trial resumed at Doncaster Crown Court on Tuesday the 10th of April 2018 before a jury of 9 women and 3 men. Mr Mustafa was represented by Michael Bromley Martin, QC, and junior counsel Christopher Martin. He was accused of, between March 30th and April 25th of the previous year, encouraging Robert Lipinski to obtain a noxious substance so it could be unlawfully administered to his wife, Renata, with the intention to injure, aggrieve, or annoy. Mr Mustafa denied the charge. The court heard how Mr Mustafa had become obsessed about his suspicions that his wife was having an affair and went to great lengths to find out what he perceived to be the truth. Prosecuting John Thackeray informed the jury that Mr Mustafa had placed a spy camera in their family car in addition to installing software on both his wife's computer and mobile phone that would allow him to monitor her activity and communications. Mr Lipinski was said to have provided the camera used. On April 14th, 2017, Mr Mustafa recorded Renata speaking in Polish on the phone to her lover. Mr Thackeray said that Mr Mustafa's alleged crime came to the attention of police when he was requested to hand over his mobile phone. He went on to say, examination of the handset revealed the defendant had deployed an app that allowed him to monitor telephone calls, and he'd also, ironically, recorded his own conversations with others. The recorded phone calls in question were between Mr Mustafa and his friend Robert Lipinski. John Thackeray went on to explain the pair had been discussing drugging Renata with GHB in order for Mr Mustafa to access her phone with a fingerprint. Since the late 1990s, gamma-hydroxybutyric acid has become more commonly known as the date rape drug, as it is colourless, odourless, and has been described as very easy to add to drinks. When consumed, the victim will quickly feel groggy and sleepy and may even become unconscious. Upon recovery, they may have an impaired ability to recall events that occurred during the period of intoxication. In these situations, evidence and the identification of the perpetrator of the rape is often difficult. During one of the recorded calls between Mr Mustafa and Mr Lipinski, the men discussed what happens when someone has taken GHB. Mr Lipinski was recorded saying, "A man gives it to a woman, bangs her and bonks her. She wakes up somewhere, in the bushes or on a bench. She remembers nothing, absolutely nothing." Mr Thackeray said the prosecution did not have to prove the drug was ever obtained. He told the jury, quote, "It's enough the prosecution prove so that you are sure that the defendant intentionally encouraged Lipinski to commit the offence." The trial resumed the following day, which began with pharmacologist Dr Stephanie Sharp giving evidence via TV link. Dr Sharp discussed the effects of GHB and its usage as she was questioned by both the prosecution and defence. The jury was sent home in the afternoon and told to return the next day. The third day of the trial also turned out to be the last, as in another surprising twist, Mr Mustafa pleaded guilty to intentionally encouraging an offence. He was sentenced to a 12-month conditional discharge and allowed to leave the court. Beginning his sentencing remarks, Judge Mark Burry told Mr Mustafa trying to get the drug was a breach of trust and said, "I'm sure you would argue Renata breached your trust by contacting another man, and I can see that point of view. But there are many people whose partners, unhappily, are unfaithful. There are very few people who would want to drug them with GHB to find out what was going on. On the 25th of April last year, your wife was reported missing, and she is still a missing person. I make it plain to you and everybody else connected with this case, the fact your wife is a missing person has no relevance to this sentencing exercise." Mr Mustafa refused to speak to reporters as he left the court, and with that, police were back to square one, with no sign of Renata, no suspects, and no leads. The day after the trial had concluded, Robert Lipinski, now separated from his wife and no longer living at Emerald Grove, spoke with the Hull Daily Mail, stating, "I believe that she is alive. If she is alive, she can clear my name. I want people to stop looking at me like I am a criminal. I am the same person as I was before any of this." In reference to the claims he was helping Mr Mustafa purchase GHB, Mr Lipinski said, "I just looked on the internet and passed information on about the drug. Majid is a dentist, much more clever than me. He could have got the drug himself if he wanted to. I have never, ever bought drugs. I have never used drugs. I do not respect people who use or buy drugs." Mr Lipinski also gave an explanation as to how he was involved with helping Mr Mustafa obtain the camera used to spy on Renata in her family car. Quote, "He was going to drive from Hull to Poland. He was scared he would have a crash or something. I have a dashcam in my car. He asked me to get him one so that he would have proof if he had an accident. I said no problem and got him one." Asked how he now feels about Mr Mustafa in the light of the guilty plea, he said, quote, "I don't want to say anything. I have lost my £33,000 a year job as a tool maker. I am now on minimum wage. I have lost my house, everything. Ask my neighbours, ask my employers, they will all say I am a kind person." Less than 2 weeks later, on the 25th of April, Humberside Police once again appealed for new information to mark 1 year since Renata's disappearance. They confirmed nobody who knew Renata, including her 2 daughters, had been in contact with her, and there had been no sign or trace of her across the UK and Europe. Detective Superintendent Tony Cockerill, the man tasked with leading a 30-person team in search of Renata, said, "It's the biggest investigation in terms of lines of inquiry and size of reach in 20 years at least. We are still driven and we are still pursuing all lines of inquiry we possibly can. Having never met her myself, because of the level of investigation we have carried out, I almost feel like I know her, and it's heartbreaking to think she's not being found, that her daughters have unanswered questions, and that she misses birthdays and Christmas, which I don't believe she would do." Joanna Antczak was friends with Renata during her time in Hull and also spoke to the Hull Daily Mail, stating, "For a while, we all believed Renata was still alive, but now 95% of the Polish community believe she is probably dead. In my head, I know that Renata has gone, but some part of me still hopes that she may come back one day." Another search in relation to the case was carried out the following day in Hull, close to what was Renata's home. In a statement, DS Cockerill said, "As a result of widespread appeals yesterday in relation to missing mum Renata Antczak, we received a call from somebody who was suspicious about an area near Highgrove Way, Kingswood. Officers attended and we investigated the scene but did not find anything of concern." It was revealed by the Hull Daily Mail towards the end of May 2018 that a television crew from a top Polish news channel was spending time in the UK to film a report on Renata's disappearance. Polsat News reporter and presenter Rafał Zaluski told the newspaper, "We filmed in Hull for about a week and travelled to London to interview Dr Mustafa. We have also spoken to the police and Renata's friends about what may have happened to Renata. In Poland, there was interest in the case when she first went missing, but it has largely been forgotten about. However, it remains a real mystery. We are carrying out a report of around 12 minutes, which will be aired this week. During the programme, Mr Mustafa, whose face appears blurred and voice is altered, can be seen talking to Mr Zaluski outside the home he had previously shared with Renata and their children." The following is a transcript of the conversation between Mr Zaluski and Mr Mustafa during the programme, and has been translated from Polish to English. To avoid confusion, Mr Mustafa's side of the conversation is voiced by fellow video creator Dark Enigma. "Did you have anything to do with your wife's disappearance?"
No, I didn't.
"Did you kill her, hurt her in any way?"
No, of course not. If every man whose wife wants a divorce will kill her, the world will probably end.
"When was the last time you were here?"
A year ago.
"On the day you were arrested?"
Yes.
"What do you feel visiting this place again? I can see you still get emotional about it."
I don't know why it all happened to us. In December 2016, I noticed some strange behaviour from my wife. She had changed. She wasn't the same person I knew.
Mr Mustafa is then shown a picture of Renata's writing that he gave to police after she disappeared. This is the note she wrote with her own hand. Is this her writing?
Yes. The title is The Freedom Ritual.
Why did you seek to drug Renata?
I only wanted to check her phone. If I got those pills, maybe I would have given her some, but only because I was worrying about her. I thought she might need help.
Did you ever use any drugs on her?
I was talking with Robert about it, but we ended that subject quickly. The option with the camera came out, so I bought the camera, and thanks to that camera, I found out she had an affair.
How about her lover?
I didn't speak to him directly.
Have you ever told Renata that you will beat him up or destroy him?
I don't want to answer that question.
So Renata went out at 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Did you look through the window?
No.
Did you see which direction she went?
No.
What happened following the police search?
They took everything from my house. Everything.
What do you mean?
Everything. When I got out of jail, I didn't even have my underwear.
What were you thinking when you were arrested?
I thought they came just to talk to me, just like they did before. But there was about 8 of them this time. Because of my phone call to Robert, I've been punished. In England, I could have got 12 months in jail for that. But after 6 months, I was a free man.
What do you think will happen when someone finds the body? Are you afraid?
I can't say I am not. I am afraid that they will direct everything against me. That they will do everything to make me guilty, even without the evidence.
Robert Lipinski was also interviewed for the piece, and even played video footage taken from his previous address at Emerald Grove that showed the raid on his former home, which had been recorded on his own surveillance camera. Within days of the programme airing, Mr Mustafa and Renata's eldest daughter, now married and aged 24, spoke to the Daily Mail about supporting her father. Quote, "I'm working with the police. I try to help them as best as I can. I am in contact with my dad. I support him 100% all the way." The case remained out of the news until the following April, when another appeal was made for information to mark the second anniversary since Renata disappeared. However, no new information was reported. On the 2nd of December 2019, Mr Mustafa was summoned to appear before the General Dental Council's Professional Conduct Committee. Official documents detailing the hearing state Mr Mustafa's charge as follows. Between the 30th of March 2017 and the 25th of April 2017, you intentionally encouraged patient A to obtain a drug known as GHB on your behalf, with the intention of administering it to your wife unlawfully and without her consent. In relation to the conduct alleged at Charge 1 above, you have failed to maintain adequate professional boundaries in your relationship with patient A. Your conduct at Allegation 1 above was A. Unprofessional, B. Lacking in integrity. Mr Mustafa, who was not present for the hearing, nor was he represented, had his name erased from the dentist's register, as the PCC had deemed him to pose a risk to the public. There would be no further developments in the case, and Renata's disappearance would receive little media coverage in the years following, with the exception of annual appeals to mark each passing anniversary. At the time of recording, the most recent appeal was made in April 2022, 5 years after Renata was last seen. Chief Inspector Becky Dickinson, the senior investigating officer, said, "This year marks 5 years since Hull mum Renata Antczak disappeared after she dropped her youngest daughter off at school. Since then, our officers have remained dedicated in trying to piece together what happened to her, and this very much remains an active and ongoing investigation. Unfortunately, no new information has come to us since the last anniversary. However, I would urge anybody with any information, no matter how small you think it is, to come forward so that we can look into it." The following month, in May 2022, Polish reporter Rafał Zalewski revisited Renata's disappearance for his video podcast, the name of which translates to "At the Crime Scene." In episodes 11 and 12, Mr Zalewski recaps the case and once again speaks to Mr Mustafa, however no new information is revealed. Unfortunately, Mr Zalewski could not be reached for comment during the making of this video. According to the information online, it appears Mr Mustafa is no longer living in the UK, but is still a practicing dentist. He appears to maintain a good relationship with his daughters and has gone on to become a grandfather. I was unable to confirm the whereabouts and status of Robert Lipinski. Renata's disappearance is as baffling as it is tragic, and she is still deeply missed by many. Hopefully, in time, new information will be discovered and shed some light on exactly what happened to her in the hours after leaving her family home on Beamsley Way in Hull on Tuesday the 25th of April 2017. Despite having strong ties to Poland, police believe Renata never left the UK. She was 49 years old at the time of her disappearance and described as being around 5 feet 6 inches tall with a slim build and shoulder-length blonde hair. If you have any information relating to Renata's disappearance and suspected murder, please contact Humberside Police via humberside.police.uk or call the UK non-emergency police number on 101. The Crime Portal is a channel dedicated to exploring lesser-known murder and missing persons cases. For more information on this case, or to submit a suggestion for future videos, please visit the Crime Portal website. Thanks to Dark Enigma for assisting with this video, and thank you for watching.